Okay, so this is part two of the boxMan modeling to animation tutorial. I realized in the last one that I was using my trackpad mouse on my computer, so I'm sorry if the clicking was annoying. I'm going to be doing a 3-button mouse, which I highly recommend for Maya. So hopefully the clicking isn't too obnoxious. But I'm going to assume that you already know how to navigate through Maya if you're watching this tutorial, and that you've already set up your project and have the plugins loaded and are aware of the hotbox, which I talked about in the last tutorial. Without further ado, I'm going to just start modeling the boxman character. And when I model a character, I like more recently I've started doing an A pose, which means if you imagine a character right here. Well, first of all, let me say what T pose is. It's basically if you have feet, legs, body, head, and then the arms go out like as a T. However, in games and more recently, you'll see a lot more people doing an A pose with the arms down as an A. The reason for that is that your body is more naturally that's a more natural position for your arms. Same thing with the legs. They'll do a bit of an A. But since I'm going to keep this really simple, I'm just going to do a T pose because it's easier to position the joints. So I'm in the front view right now, and I'm just going to go up here. Again, I'm in the polygon shelf, and I'm going to create a body. So I'm just going to click once and scale it up somewhat accordingly. X to snap on the grid. Just going to create another leg body part. Let's see, Control D to duplicate that, move that down, and I'm going to try and keep this. And I hit spacebar to pop out to the let's see to the viewport. Or sorry, not spacebar. I held down the hotbox key, and then I just quickly picked one of these other views. So I went up to perspective. So you can do this really fast, just down, up, left, right. That's the top. But I'm going to go into perspective view because I can kind of see how stuff is shaping better. And basically you just want to create a character. Again, this is like, it's okay if your character is very rough. Mine's going to be, he's boxman, so he's just boxes. And it's all going to be from this basic shape, and let's see. I also want to just, as I'm doing this, I want to stress how important naming is. Naming is incredibly important because when you start doing like very complex scenes in Maya, your naming has to be just everything just has to be perfectly named, or stuff can break so easily. So once we have our legs, I'm just going to scale those down a little bit that way. Alright, so I'm going to take our legs and Control D and slide those over. I'm just going to use X to snap to grid. Make sure that everything is perfectly on the grid. And our guy might be a bit unproportional, but that's okay because he's boxman. It doesn't matter. I'm going to grab the legs and I'm going to group them, which basically allows me to rotate from one pivot point. It's kind of useful. Like that, and I'm going to type in 90 degrees because I want an exact 90-degree rotation for the arms. And like I said, I'm going to be moving a bit quicker than if I was actually teaching this to a class, just because this is meant to be a reference video. This isn't meant to be a actual lecture video. Just something like once you've already been taught the lecture, just so that you can go back and see like, oh, that's how you do that. So I'm going to just keep adjusting the scale. Again, like I said, we are going to be doing, or I am going to be teaching T-pose. And this guy's gonna have some crazy long arms, but that's alright. And some people are, it depends like what orientation they want the hands. Like if you imagine this being the hands, the thumb pointing up, the fingers out. so with the palm facing forward. That's an okay way to model. I personally, and what I've heard from a lot of people, and I also recommend this, doing it this way, because like let's pretend I'm just going to group these right now and change my pivot point to the shoulder. If you rotate downward, see how the hand naturally folds down to the side, like palm inward. And so that's why I recommend doing it that way. I'm also going to scale this down a bit because you can just have crazy long arms. It's perfectly fine. Alright, so I'm just going to duplicate this, move it over, and the cool thing about this is I'm just going to do -1 on scale X, because I can see down here in the bottom left that X is that axis, and so if I do -1, it'll flip it from this pivot point. Now your objects do need to be grouped for this to work. So -1, oops. Alright, well, I'm sorry about that. It was in local, so I'm going to do something called freeze transformations. Freezing transformations is very important. It's up under modify, freeze transformations, and -1 on X, and it's very strange that's not working. Sorry, bear with me for a second. Hold on. Oh, okay, it's Z. Sorry, I don't know why it's Z actually. There we go. So we have, let's see, I'm just going to make sure everything is perfectly lined up to a point. Let's see, and then I'm gonna freeze transformations on everything. And freezing transformations is an important thing to do because, like, let's say you have your character. Well, as I'm talking about this, I'll make the head. Let's say that you have your character and you put them in a crazy pose, but you're like, I don't like that pose, or let's say you want to do a different pose. You want an easy way to get him back to his original T pose. So you freeze transformations on it so that the 0, 0, 0 of all the axes, because right now this point, right, this box, see all this, the scale, the translate X, it's from that original box that I made, wherever this position was. Like if I reset this back to 0 and reset these scales back to 1, it's going to reset to my original box and where I created it. So we want it to where when I type in 0, 0, 0 for the translation rotation and 1, 1, 1 for the scale, that everything goes back to our original T-pose right here. So again, modify, freeze transformations, and you notice everything goes back to 0. Another important thing to do is delete history. We don't really have history on it, but history, just to associate when you're done with stuff that you want to delete history, because history will slow stuff down the more complicated your scenes are. The hotkey for doing that is Alt-Shift-D, or if you're on a Mac, Option-Shift-D. You can also go up to Edit, Delete by Type, History, and so you get your hotkey right there. Alright. One thing that I should throw out while I'm talking about just important things right now. I'm in ZUp right now, which is the standard coordinate system for games. And the way to change that in Maya is you want to go to Window, Settings, Preferences, and you want to, first of all, there's 3 things in here that are really important. Make sure that your view cube right here is show the view cube, that's on. Make sure that in polygons that, not polygons. Make sure that in selection that you have polygon selection as whole face. It makes stuff a whole lot easier. Make sure that undo set to infinite, because everything, like even a selection, is considered an action. So you really don't know how many steps you've done until you run out of undos, and it's unfortunate. If you have a pretty powerful computer, like I'm on a MacBook Pro, i7, even my last generation Mac, well, even like that, my Mac from 3 years ago could handle infinite in high-level scenes. So you should be fine on infinite. And then lastly, under settings up here, make sure that your up axis is set to Z.